Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon which time zone you're in right now. My name is Alan Cook, and I'm a Business Development Manager for Raytec Limited in the Hazardous Lighting Division. And today you've logged on to see our latest webinar about lighting on land rigs. We're just seeing the last few hopefully people logging on to the webinar, and so we will begin in just one moment. So thank you very much for taking the time from your busy schedules today, and I hope you find the webinar interesting. Okay then, it's a couple of minutes past, so let's get this started now. I think most people have logged on, and there are going to be maybe a few more people who will log on in a few moments time, but thank you for taking the time today. Raytec's new webinar all about lighting for land rigs. So what are we going to talk through today? Well, we're going to look at an introduction, firstly, to what land rigs are. Secondly, we're going to look at some of the challenges, both environmental, technical, that land rigs face and how that affects lighting on the land rigs. Then we're going to look at what we at Raytec can offer in terms of solutions via the products that we manufacture. The solutions might also include the lighting design. This is very important, and we're going to touch on that in more depth later on in the presentation. But making sure you've got the light in the right place, doing the job it should be doing, is actually pretty crucial and important, especially on land rigs. Then we're going to be looking at future trends, what we're hearing from customers, what we're hearing from the market, what we're hearing from industry, what's likely to be changing on land rigs in the forthcoming future. And finally, we've got a question and answer session, and I think we're going to be joined during the question and answer session by one of our directors, Barry Thompson, who spent a lifetime in the lighting industry. So if you've got any questions or queries, you can save them to the end, to the question and answer session, or you can just pop them in the chat as we go along, and then we can address them at the very end when we've finished the final presentation slide. So if everybody's here now and we're ready to go, let's start talking about land rigs. So what are they? Well, there's many different types of drilling rigs. Land rigs, as the name alludes to, are used onshore, mainly for taking out things like oil and gas. Due to the nature and where some of these oil and gas fields can be located, the conditions in which land rigs are constructed and have to operate in can be extremely harsh. It can be very dry conditions, it can be very hot conditions, it can be very cold conditions, a whole mixture, just depending upon which region in the world the land rig's located. These environmental conditions, along with the actual process itself, bring about many potential hazards. And of course, as soon as you've got potential hazards, thankfully, we have got very strict safety regulations to ensure that everybody is safe and sound in the processing. So we're going to look at how the role of lighting in terms of how it affects the safety aspects of land rig operations in terms of worker safety and compliance, but also very importantly from the owners and operators viewpoint as well, the operational efficiency of these units. Often they can be running 24/7, and the old adage goes, time is money. Delays, disruption to processing is very expensive, time consuming and costly. And everybody does everything they can to avoid such disruptions. So lights, when you're operating 24 hours a day and in darker conditions, are very, very important. Having clarity is important. So the question, why LED lighting for land rigs? Well, looking into the differences between traditional lighting, such as fluorescent, and LED lighting, probably the first things you're going to come across is the huge amount of energy savings that can be made. It's very well documented in terms of the consumption of LED lights in comparison with traditional luminaires. It can make for a huge saving, even on something of a relative scale in terms of a land rig in compared to an offshore rig. Another key and very important difference is the difference in terms of reduced maintenance between traditional lighting and LED lighting. The LED lighting needs much less maintenance than traditional lighting. And the consequence of this is less downtime, more manufacturing or processing time, and less costs as far as maintenance is concerned. Another key area of differentiation is instant power on. LED instant power on, no warm-up time required in comparison with traditional lighting. And a combination of this instant on performance, the variation that we can achieve with LED lighting, producing a better overall quality lighting and focus on where the light should be as opposed to where it is quite important for the worker comfort, but also the processing efficiency. And finally, one of the key aspects that we're going to discuss about land rigs in particular is they're very prone to high levels of vibration. It's inherent in the process. So therefore, anything that's attached to a land rig, anything that's operating with the land rig, is operating in a very high vibration environment and shock environment. And this obviously has impacts on what we use in those areas. On a land rig itself, there are many key application areas. These areas have to be properly lit at all times. These would include the engine room, the mud room, diesel tank areas, mixing systems, the workshop areas, and the accumulators. All of these need to be lit properly at all times. On these pictures here, you can see some onshore pictures of various spotlights that we've got in locations with a safety net around them. For retention, there's a secondary retention cable on there as well. So you can see in terms of the fixing, clear visibility, no obstructions, providing a good level of light. On this next slide and picture here, you can see an example of a hydraulic workover rig out in UAE. You can see there the different levels, and on each level we've got lighting and lighting illuminating any staircases, all of which needs to be consistently running at a high level without any obstructions. Now, as we mentioned on earlier slides, safety and compliance is a very important, dare I say, critical feature of any land rig operation. All of the electrical products, and especially in terms of the lighting, which we're talking about today, have to be explosion-proof, flame-proof certified. So you'll find the certificates for all of our products for IEC EX, ATEX, etc., all listed and available on our website. Another important aspect of the safety and compliance working on land rigs is emergency lighting. We'll touch on in the future. Land rigs are operated by diesel generators. If there's any issue with a diesel generator, the power goes off, the emergency lighting has to kick in order to provide either conditions good enough to continue working and processing, or provide the correct conditions, lighting conditions, for a safe evacuation of the site. So emergency lighting is a critical part of land rigs and land rig safety. In terms of other aspects where we have to comply and make sure we provide a safe product, we're going to talk about and look at IP ratings and IK ratings. And as we show there, IP ratings are the ratings for a product in terms of the protection that it gives against dust and water. Ingress protection, this is why it's called IP. Likewise, we have a similar rating called IK, which is for impact protection. And what we're going to be doing next is just having a quick run through of what the ratings mean and how they come about. So here we go, understanding IP ratings. So as we've talked about, IP, ingress protection. Then there's two numbers. The first number denotes the protection against solids. In the example shown here, the number is 6. So if we look at the chart there, we see that the protection against solids goes from X or 0, where essentially there's no protection or no data available, all the way up to 6, where the unit is classified and certified as dust tight. The second number, as you can see there, refers to the liquids. And if we look on the liquids chart, we have a similar type of layout and format. So we go from IPX or IP whatever to 0 on no protection, all the way up to 9 protection against powerful water jets with high temperatures. Now, those of you who are familiar with IEC EX certification and ATEX certification will understand that the international standards governing hazardous areas mean that pretty much all of the products to be certified for a hazardous area, say for example zone 1, have to be rated IP65 or IP66. So going back to the charts that we've been talking about, that means the products need to be dust tight, and the products need to either protect against water jets or protect against powerful water jets. There is a similar style and chart and understanding to the IK ratings. The IK ratings, IK impact protection, and then we have a number, and it goes from 0, 1 being the lowest form of protection, which, as you can see, the certification states is 200 grams dropped from a height of 7.5 centimeters onto the object, giving the impact, as it says there, 0.15 joules, all the way up to the highest classification of IK rating according to the certifications, which is IK10. This is a 10-kilo object dropped from 40 centimeters, giving an impact of 20 joules. Now, this is all a little bit hypothetical and theoretical at this stage, but we've got some examples, practical examples, coming later on in terms of a video, which will give you a little bit more real-world understanding of what we mean by the IK ratings and what type of forces we're talking about. Now, the challenges and solutions about land rig operations are multiple. It considers very many different factors. So we're going to start to run through some of them now and understand the challenges, and then understand some of the solutions that can be employed to provide a better and safer working environment on land rigs. As we mentioned earlier, land rigs can be located in many different locations, but by and large, many of them are pretty harsh locations, pretty harsh environments. There can be extreme temperatures. For instance, in the Middle East, we can see very extreme temperatures on some land rig locations. I should also imagine that there's going to be areas of North America where you may see very low temperatures on land rig locations. Natural phenomenon, again, depending upon whether you're hot and cold, this can be snowstorms, this could be sandstorms, and anything in between, probably along with high winds in many instances as well. Chemical attacks. Often many of the chemicals used in the processing on land rigs can be extremely aggressive. This can affect anything that they're splashed onto, spilt onto, come into contact with, along with chemicals that maintenance teams use when cleaning land rigs. Land rigs are often disassembled and reassembled and moved to somewhere else. And when they're doing so, there's also cleaning processes that go on, and various chemicals used in the cleaning can degrade light fittings. Again, just depending upon the actual location, prolonged exposure to sun and UV rays. This can be very damaging to many materials, as we're going to talk about, and has to be taken into consideration when selecting the best possible lighting to go on land rigs. And finally, perhaps it seems a bit obvious because we stated it already, but by the very nature of what they do, land rig drilling produces high levels of vibration. And this high level of vibration can be very aggressive to various components that are attached to the land rigs. So what do we look to do at Raytec in terms of providing products with suitable solutions for use on land rigs? Well, firstly, one of the things we do is that all of our lighting enclosures, all of our luminaire enclosures are made from high quality marine grade aluminium enclosures. Okay, this not only provides a very strong, rugged, durable enclosure to house the LEDs in, it also helps keep the LEDs cool, which is extremely important for the longevity and for the optimum performance. On the front of the luminaire, and in the picture shown on the slide here, this is a linear. The lens that we use is a polycarbonate lens. It's a UV stabilized polycarbonate lens. We do this to provide huge amounts of impact resistance. And again, you'll see later on in the slides, but on this particular linear, if we've got a polycarbonate lens fitted on it, we can get an IK rating of 10. 10 being the highest possible on the certification scale. As mentioned before, all of our products are ATEX, IEC EX and UK EX compliant, along with American standards as well. We do have American standards for our products, all of which are listed and available from our website. And quite obviously, to match the certification levels, our products are IP66 and IP67 rated on certain products. So again, please check on the exact data sheets, please check on the website to understand the location that you're looking for, and it will show what IP ratings we have for those products. One of the points we raised earlier was the difference in power consumption between traditional lighting and LED lighting. So we've already talked and discussed on the fact that traditional lighting is extremely energy intensive in comparison with LED lighting. This is going to bring about higher operating costs. And what do I mean by higher operating costs? Well, as we've already talked about, land rigs are powered by generators, which by and large are diesel generators. Now, in many of the instances and in many situations, the extra cost of a bit more diesel is negligible. It's not probably a high cost in the overall scheme of things. However, because the land rigs depend upon the diesel generator system to provide the electricity, challenges are that the generators can get overloaded. And if the generator goes down, the emergency lights kick in, and then there's potential for delays in the processing, and this can be very, very costly. So in order not to put so much pressure, if you like, on the diesel generators that are running these land rigs, if we reduce the consumption by changing from traditional luminaires to LED luminaires, we can try and contribute to reducing the overall operating costs because there's going to be less downtime and more processing time. So in the solution we show here, the difference in the consumption, we can look at a single 2-foot Spartan linear high output version at 48 watt, can produce enough equivalent to a fluorescent 72 watt unit. Now, that in itself may not seem too huge, but start doing the numbers, and especially if you're talking about an offshore situation where there could be thousands of linear fittings, that can produce a huge cost and operational saving at the end of the day. So we believe that, and we've seen that even on land rigs, which have admittedly much fewer fittings than an offshore platform, the operating costs, both in terms of the electricity consumption, diesel consumption, and most importantly, the pressure put on the diesel generators is significantly reduced. Hazardous waste. Well, what's that got to do with it? Many people is going to ask. Well, we said that land rigs are pretty much always located in hostile, harsh, difficult to reach, remote locations. Not in every instance, but in many instances, this is the case. That means traveling to and from a land rig can be very time consuming and can be costly. That means if you have to start disposing of everything, this is also going to be a cost that comes into it. But most importantly, one of the key differences between traditional luminaires and LEDs is the fact that traditional luminaires may contain mercury. That makes them hazardous. That means the disposal can't be a regular disposal. It's more complex and it's more costly. It's more complex because staff have to be trained about how to handle, how to store, and when to be able to safely dispose through the correct disposal process channel. And given that many of these land rigs are a long distance away from maybe the base, then this is going to be costly. In comparison with LED lighting, where there's no toxic content, there's no special handling is required, and so anything that does need to be disposed of can be disposed through the normal, general, proper recycling process systems that are available. As we've mentioned earlier, the LED lighting consistently provides a higher level of output for a longer period of time than existing traditional fluorescent lighting. So this is much lower running costs and much less maintenance costs, which we're going to touch on in the near future. So if we're looking to upgrade light fittings on a land rig from, say, high pressure sodium to low powered LED, the three things we're going to see immediately are energy efficiency. The LED lighting is a more energy efficient product. We're going to see a substantial longer lifespan. The need for relamping is going to be significantly reduced. And finally, we're going to see instant on capability. And this, as we mentioned there, is crucial for continuous operation. Because otherwise, if there's delays, there's costs incurred. And the operators do not want costs incurred and do not want safety issues. Another key challenge is maintenance. And one of the things that we've done with some of our distributors is we have been lucky enough to be able to get to talk with chief electricians on various land rig operations, and pulling together the information from talking with them, we came up with 6 pretty common lighting related issues that they all seem to experience and that they all want to find solutions to. The first one we heard of was frequent maintenance. And as we've just touched on, frequent maintenance, relamping, ballast failures, things like that, this takes an awful lot of time and effort in terms of having to uninstall, tag out, reinstall new units. Lens damage. And I think especially what I'm hearing here is in terms of when the land rigs are put up, assembled and then disassembled, there's often instances where lenses get cracked or they break during this process. But we've also seen and also have heard that lenses getting cracked and broken due to prolonged UV exposure. Dirty diffusers, dirty lens diffusers. This is a very common problem and probably always will be in land rig operations. We've got a solution for that I'm going to talk about on a later slide. Emergency battery limitations. Many of the chief engineers were bemoaning the fact that the battery backup wasn't sufficient on many of the units that they were seeing operating. Lighting non-uniformity. This was something that initially wasn't noticed and then over time started to become a big issue with many of the engineers that we talked to. Dark spots, irregular lighting coverage, light not being where it needed to be, essentially. And again, we'll touch on a potential solution for some of that later in the presentation. And the final of the 6 common points that these engineers came up with was safety showers. There was little or no lighting at safety shower locations. As you said, the dangerous and hazardous environment that land rigs operate in mean that worker safety is absolutely paramount. So we need to ensure, we need to assist that the safety shower location is very well lit at all times. So moving on to this actual slide now, maintenance was always and will always be a challenge in terms of the costs, the time and logistical factors. As we mentioned, prolonged exposure to sun and UV can degrade certain materials, can cause certain materials to perhaps warp, perhaps distort, affecting the gaskets, leading to leakage, leading to cracks. And the heavy and dusty, dirty environment means that there's often maintenance cleaning going on. and the maintenance cleaning takes time to clean, reinstall, tag in, tag out, and replace any damaged fixtures if necessary. If they're not creating the light where it's needed and there's a gap in the safety lighting, it's a problem that needs to be fixed straight away, and that can lead to delays in processing times. So how do we look at that from Ratek's point of view? Well, we were talking about dirty diffusers and dirty lenses and what can we do on that. And I guess the obvious thing is, well, you clean them more regularly. But if you clean them more regularly, then there's a maintenance cost to that and there's a time issue involved as well. And as we said, various cleaning agents can damage the lenses, can scratch the lenses, which will lead to longer term reduction in the light quality. So one of the things we do offer from Ratek is removable protective films. These are clear optical films applied to the front lens of the linear unit, which are very quick and easy to apply, literally stick on, and then likewise, very quick and easy to replace. You just peel them off and stick a brand new one on. So when the linear light has got too much dirt and grime all over it, and the constant wiping over with the cloth over the removable film still isn't solving the problem, still isn't making the light clear enough, then you can simply peel it off and apply a new one. Not a perfect solution, but a very fast, simple, cost-effective solution. Ease of access. This is down to our modular design. As you can see on the slide here, the graphic is showing our power supply unit, which is a modular unit on the end of the light engine. So to maintain this unit, to change this unit, you don't need to open up the whole of the luminaire. You just need to unscrew the end where the modular PSU is fitted, and then you can replace it. This is saving time, money. Now, another aspect involved in this modular design is with regards to the high power floods and the high power bay units that we produce. You may have some high power floods fitted on a land rig. One of the things we can do with that is we can have the power supply unit, which is shown on that linear there, it's removable on the high power flood. And it can actually be fitted in an easy, convenient, easy to reach location up to, I think, 100 meters away from the actual floodlight location. So in instances on like a land rig, if the floodlight is up towards the crown on the very top of the tower, the power supply unit could be fitted much lower down in an easy accessible location, meaning that if there's maintenance necessary, somebody doesn't have to go all the way up the tower. They can actually just go to an easier reaching walkway, more convenient, safer to work on environment for maintenance purposes. And finally, one of the things that we're seeing that's going to be happening and is available on our linear products is DALI 2.0 integration. This is going to bring about the ability for people to remotely check and real-time monitor what exactly is happening with their lighting systems. Skipped a slide there, my apologies. So what we've got here, this is not real life, okay? This doesn't exist on a land rig. This is a factory bench situation, so it's not real life. I wouldn't worry too much about focusing on the speed that this video is going to show. What I would focus on is the actual ease and simplicity, making maintenance easy. How fast can you change a power supply on a Spartan Linear? Well, let's find out and see. Power off. We undo the 2 bolts retaining the cover. Disconnect the power cables. disconnect the earth wire, remove the retention cable, reattach the retention cable, reattach the earth wire, reconnect the power wires, resecure the lid onto the main body, and switch the power back on. 2 minutes dead. Okay. Now we understand that's not real world. That's not real life. What that is just an example of how how simple and easy it is to replace the power supply unit. Obviously, in real life, it could be suspended in a different position and could take much longer. But it's a very simple process, and it doesn't involve opening up the whole of the luminaire. Reliability, very much a challenge in any lighting situation, but I think one especially so on the land rigs. As we've mentioned, high levels of vibration exist in land rig operations. What this is demonstrated very clearly over time is that many traditional lighting products cannot survive for long periods of time due to these levels of vibration. Various filaments, everything else like that, cannot cope with the high levels of vibrations, and they break and so need replacing. And as soon as they need replacing, then it's downtime, it's more maintenance costs, and it's less processing time. So one of the things that we've included on our crane floodlight, which is often used in very high vibration environments, is we've got a special damper system which mitigates those vibrations. We also need to ensure that the lights are completely safe and remain securely in place. And this is why we have secondary retention points fitted on all of the lights, so that for whatever reason, should the fitting or should the fixings break or be degraded, then the secondary retention cable hangs onto the unit, stops it falling, prevents an accident. Weight and durability, as we said, lighting rigs get assembled, disassembled, moved to different locations on fairly frequent basis. All of this, in terms of the potential for damage, means it's quite high. So we don't want things to be too heavy because we've got to transport that rig from A to B. But it needs to be very, very durable, because during that process of assembly, disassembly, operation and transport, there's always a chance that something is going to get damaged. So how do we look at that? Well, as I said before, the nature of LED lighting means that it's more inherently resistant to vibrations. Not having the filaments means that already it's going to be a better bet to last longer in high vibration environments. Crane luminaires, as I mentioned, have got special dampers fitted to ensure longevity in those situations, and all of our luminaires are fitted with secondary retention points. What you'll find is some of our distributors fit these as standard on everything that they sell. Okay, you need to ensure that should a fitting come loose, it needs to remain attached at all times and not drop, causing a hazard to the workforce. And as I mentioned earlier, the aluminium bodied LED lights that we produce are often lighter than some of the traditional lighting, and they're very tough and durable in terms of the design, and we achieve a IK10 rating on those linears. So in terms of, are they going to last? Well, the answer is yes, they're going to last. We have coming up now something that, if any of you attended the recent ADIPEC Expo out in Abu Dhabi, the light that's used and shown here on this video, it still exists, and we took this light to the expo and we exhibited it. And whilst it didn't look quite as attractive as it originally was, the light still works, the light still functions. Once again, it's not a real world example of what we'd expect to be happening on land rigs. We wouldn't expect strongmen to be going around on land rigs trying to break all the lights. But it is a very interesting and simple example about how tough, rugged and durable our LED linear lights are. So let's see how the strongman gets on against our Spartan linear. Built tough, yeah, absolutely built tough. And it needs to be, considering the environment that it's in. So that was a bit of fun video that we had from our marketing team there that really superbly shows just how tough these products are. Now, from a safety perspective, as we mentioned on an earlier slide, emergency lighting is crucial and critical, especially on land rigs that are being run by diesel generators, where the generator may not always perform as it should do. Now, we've got various different levels of emergency lighting output available for our products at Raytec. Our standard models are 25% output for 3 hours. However, we can also provide 50% output, 75% output, and even 100% output on most of our product models. This is very important, especially on land rigs, because, as I mentioned earlier, if the generator is going to go out for a certain reason, then one of two things needs to be happening. If it's going out because it's just a simple diesel generator issue and somebody's going to sort it out and it's all going to be back and running again in another few minutes, then process needs to continue exactly as it is. That means it needs to be instant light, instant from the LEDs, instant light, so it's safe to continue processing and it's safe to continue working on site. If there's another issue and the emergency is there for evacuation purposes, then likewise, if there's a big issue on site and the emergency lighting comes on, you need to be able to clearly see to evacuate the site as quickly as possible. The battery backup that Spartan Linears provide is crucial. and it's crucial because on the LEDs, we get the instant illumination, as I've just talked about. There's no warm-up time necessary, as you'll see on traditional lights. So having that battery backup is absolutely crucial on the emergency variations. We do have, on the emergency lighting linears, our intelligent self-test. Now you can see on the graphic there that the battery pack on the emergency version is painted bright red. So it's nice and easy to understand which is the battery pack end and which is the power supply end. Located on the red pack is a small LED in the corner, very bright. This operates a traffic light system. Green, meaning everything's all fine, no problem at all with the battery, it's all ready to go. Amber, meaning it's either going through a test cycle, or it's recharging, or it's checking itself. Red, meaning something wrong, we need to check this and possibly replace this. So there's a very quick and easy way for the maintenance teams to be able to check on the situation with the emergency lighting and just make sure everything is okay. As we were talking about emergency and as we were talking about safety situations, one of the points we touched on earlier was about safety showers and the safety shower location and what we can do to assist with that. So we do have a green light safety shower linear. This has all the usual IECX and ATEX, etc. approvals, Class 1, Div 2, ABS, UL, CSA, all the different approvals on this. Temperature-wise, it's going to be able to cope with the aggressive and harsh temperature environments, either very, very cold locations down to -40 or much hotter locations up to +60. So those lights are available, and one of the questions that we had in an earlier session was, are those lights available in a low voltage version? And just to cover that answer off in this session is yes, they are. So there are low voltage versions available for this green shower light, either in 18 to 48 volt AC or 18 to 69 volt DC. So yes, those are available, and having a well illuminated safety shower area is a critical part of safety, worker safety on land rig operations. Now, touching a bit on what we were talking about on the hazardous and the hazardous waste, one of the things that we're very conscious of at Raytec is sustainability, and not having anything hazardous within our products, we think is a key part of our sustainability. But along with that, I just want to share with you that Raytec as a company is carbon neutral and has been certified as carbon neutral for several years now. Internally, we've got a sustainable planet team that are constantly looking at new innovations and new ways to make sure that anything and everything we do within our business, we can be showing that we're carbon neutral and reducing our output. We've also engaged both locally and further afield on reforestation programs and sustainability drives. And just recently, we've got our Spartan Linear luminaire EPD certified. So that's Environmental Protection Declaration certified. So if you want to check on the website, you can find the latest certification there, just to demonstrate and show how recyclable our products are. And whilst for some people this may not be a pressing situation right now, we are going to see in the future, even for the land rig operators, that having and being able to demonstrate that the products being used are sustainable and recyclable is going to be a key feature. One of the issues mentioned earlier that the chief electricians on land rigs were talking about was lighting non-uniformity, dark spots, and irregular lighting coverage. And one of the solutions that we can assist with on that at Raytec is lighting design. This is a complimentary service from Raytec. That means it's free of charge. It doesn't cost you. But what we can do in working with you is we can produce a lighting design to demonstrate the effectiveness of the lighting that we can supply you with and the uniformity that you require. So we can demonstrate in process areas that the desired or required lux levels can be achieved. We can demonstrate and show for emergency evacuation purposes that the emergency lighting meets the lux levels required for safe evacuation. And we can ensure that the light only goes where it needs to go and it's not wasted. So depending upon how complex the land rig or your particular project or installation can be, it's going to really depend upon how long it's going to take us to come up with that design. It can be a very simple design, could even be next day. But if you have got some files that you can share with us, then we can create a lighting design for you, for your lab, to demonstrate and show that it meets the requirements that you have for the project. It meets the safety requirements, and we can demonstrate, perhaps if your land rig has got traditional lighting on, we can demonstrate the difference in terms of numbers of fittings used, complete consumption costs, etc., the difference between traditional and LED luminaires. And finally, future trends. What are we hearing? What are we seeing? What do we think will happen in the future regarding lighting on land rigs? Well, probably one of the main things we're hearing right now is this move towards having what's called rig crown lighting. You can see from the graphics there, this is where at the very top of the land rig tower, an array of usually high output floodlights are used to illuminate the total operational area. Now, this is to reduce the necessity to have tower lights installed around the installation area. This is not to take away from the fact that the land rig itself needs to be properly illuminated for processing and safety purposes. So the purpose of the crown rig lighting on the very top there is to illuminate the general area surrounding the land rig. Okay, and we can have solutions for you on that. So if that's something of interest, if that's something you want to get involved with, please do get in contact with us. We also mentioned about safety shower lighting. We've covered that off earlier with our green safety shower light. And finally, we also talked about protective films, a very simple and easy way of making sure that the light lens on the linears remains as clean as possible during the processing time. Easy to install, easy to remove. So there may be some of you out there who have significant knowledge and experience of operating, running land rigs, and if so, I'd love you to reach out to us to have a discussion about anything that you're experiencing and share any of your experiences so we can understand better how we can give you solutions from our Raytec product range. And now, finally, question and answer session. So if you've got any questions, please make sure you put them in the chat and we'll try our best to answer them. We're going to have some panelists available to us, including, as I said, Barry Thompson, director at Raytec, who spent a lifetime in lighting. So if you've got any technical questions and queries, then I'm sure we can help you out and assist you with that. There will now be 15 seconds of embarrassing silence while people actually think of a question. If you haven't got any to mind. Oh, we got one question here. What temperatures can your Spartan linears operate within? Well, the standard Spartan Linear operates within -40 Celsius or +60. If you're looking at the emergency version, that's -20 Celsius to +50 Celsius. Oh, we've got a question here about how do you undertake the lighting design service? Would you ask for rig layout drawings to give suggestions, or would you make a site visit and then provide your suggestions? That's a great question. That is a really good question. Well, I would say firstly, we would really, look to need or require a complete rig layout drawing from you. That's going to be the best way we can give you an accurate and comprehensive lighting design. I do know with some of our distributors, it may be possible for them to conduct a site visit to see an existing land rig and do a lighting review and give some suggestions and recommendations accordingly. And I guess off the back of such a site visit, we could also draw up a lighting design for you. So there are going to be ways that we can go about this, but certainly the more information you share with us, the better, because it means we can give you a more comprehensive and accurate design. We've got another question here. What's the lens made out of? I presume you're meaning by this the lens on the Spartan Linear. The lens on the Spartan Linear is a UV stabilized polycarbonate, and as we mentioned in the earlier slides in the video, it's got an IK 10 rating, so it's got the very highest level of impact resistance. And as you saw from that video, bashed up though it was, that light still works. So that's testament to the rugged and durable build that we design into our products. Anything else? Okay, well, we are almost up time-wise today. There are some contact details there for us on screen. There's our website. There's an email address you can contact us, and our main telephone line. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I hope you found some parts of it interesting. If you've got any further questions, queries, or comments, then please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I think what I would just like to say is, once again, thank you very much indeed for your time. I thank you for taking the time out of your busy days and schedules, and please enjoy the rest of your day or evening.